Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the 7th episode of the Jazz Nation community. So, this week we have Swaroop Guha on the show, who's a Psytrance producer who goes by the name of Sanatana. So, if you listen to Psytrance, psychedelic music, dance music, or you go to such events or parties, then I guess you might have heard his music, you might have heard about him, people like DJs playing his music. So his music has been played by legends like Goa Gill, Kintsatsa, Tchaikovsky, and he himself has played in some of the top psytrance festival in the world. The first track that I heard by Sanathana was Chillam Kache, and it used to be really popular like among my friends in college. We used to listen to him like crazy, and then today we had the opportunity to speak to the artist himself. So yes, without further ado, let's call Sanathana to the show. Yo.
So yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really plan it. Like if I'm doing it, depends again. Like see, if I'm doing it with the modular only, then it sounds different and the whole setup and starting point is different because it's like a clean slate and sometimes I patch from the scratch. So which means like it's a flow, like catching on the sound, the harmony, the percussion, the flow. Everything has to go kind of simultaneously. There is no planning. So it's totally out of the box. Like if it cannot be planned because it's on a modular. It's like it's always changing. So I've got to keep it's like meditation, I've got to be completely into it, like listening to it, feeling it, and then making changes to parameters and then seeing what happens to it. And also there's a lot of waiting because the sound matures over time. So it's like as the components are like opening up and they're heating up, the oscillators start to sound a little different and a
What
little
are
more
you
character
saying?
starts to come out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
not know
yeah,
that,
yeah.
bro. Like, I have used modulars
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
but then I did not know, like, it heats up and it starts to produce a different sort of sound.
Yeah. Definitely. Even the lot of components, like when they heat up, you get the best character out of a modular when it's heated up completely proper. When it reaches its optimal level of heat, which we don't know, but then there is science where you can do that and find out your optimal levels for your modular also and things like that. There are people who go into that detail also, but
Yeah?
yeah. I mean, people, there are people
Can't
who are
you,
into
can't you,
like
like, just blow dry it and increase the temperature? I'm sorry.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like it's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Also how it evolves is like unpredictable.
Yeah.
So in a way, I like that element of unpredictability, and it's a very spiritual experience, to be honest, because it's like many questions come out from it, where if we are facilitating the movement of sound,
Hmm. Hmm.
so what is making it move actually, and what who's making those decisions for it to move in a particular manner, who's making the decisions for it to transfer from one transposed position to another, pitch variations and everything. Okay, we can manually set it, that's fine.
Hmm.
LFOs can do its job and stuff like that, but then
Yeah.
still there remains the question of where from is all of that happening. So that's a very like
What do
I
you mean
strongly
exactly?
believe
Like,
that.
you're trying to say that you're just an observer observing the sound that's happening. It's not you that
And
planned it.
facilitating, yeah,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
facilitating the sound.
Hmm.
Basically we in a modular system especially, we kind of become only the facilitator and
Hmm.
the one who just patches it and makes the sound flow from A to B.
Yeah.
But what happens in between, even though we can set certain parameters, we're not in total control of those parameters because it's always changing, it's evolving, and that's the whole beauty of a modular. Whereas in a normal analog synthesizer with keys, there are
Hmm.
set parameters which
Yeah.
are programmed
Hmm.
and they are
Hmm.
set to function in a certain way. So
Hmm.
you cannot go wrong with those synthesizers. It's like when you press a C, you're going to press a C. When
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
press
Yeah.
an A, it's going to be an A.
Hmm.
But in a modular, it's not going to happen. It's like sometimes because of the heat variation or whatever, it's going to be off tune completely. So you can never be
So
sure that
you
your
can't
next note is
actually
going to be.
master this thing. I'm sorry if I'm
You
interrupting.
can, you can, you can. So there are some modules which are designed to be quantizers,
Hmm.
and that's for the people who are like having that OCD kind of thing, who want to be very classical approach based, in the box kind of method,
Hmm.
where they want everything to be in the grid and everything has to be harmonically talking to each other by the rule book and all of that. So
Hmm.
for them, they have quantizers where you can set the quantized parameters that after your C, it has to move to G and then A or whatever, or F or whatever. So
Hmm.
it depends. You can set those parameters and then it will function exactly that way. So,
Hmm.
but then you know what? I didn't want to do it in that way for my modular setup, but that, because then what's the difference between me having a synthesizer and having a modular?
Yeah.
I might as well have a synthesizer where I'm more in control manually to play those notes
Oh, I'm
than
so
to
sorry,
make it happen
Swaroop.
in my.
Swaroop, I'm so sorry. Can you please? I know what a modular is, but can you just explain it for the people who are going to listen to it? Yeah, what a modular is and how it's different from an analog synthesis.
Okay, so how a modular, I mean, like how it functions is basically around the principles of signals,
Yeah.
and it's electricity basically that gets converted to sound.
Hmm.
So there are many modules which do different jobs and they have different functions.
Yeah.
So an oscillator is, for example, what generates the sound wave. So you
Yeah.
have different waveforms from sine wave to triangle to pulse width, pulse saw,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
square. They're
Yeah.
different, and today there are so many more complicated waveforms that you can get using digital
Yeah.
oscillators also.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So so that's an oscillator basically, and then that sound can be manipulated in infinite ways,
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
by
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where it's up to the person. So it's
Huh.
up to the ears and the person of how the person picks up that variation
Hmm.
and what he or she can do with that variation and move it forward.
Yeah.
So that's in short, that is what a modular does. And
Hmm.
then there's no such rule book where you can actually teach somebody of how to play a modular system, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a very personal unit that becomes it grows on the person that's making or working on a modular
Hmm.
from scratch,
Hmm.
and thus it becomes a very personalized instrument on its own.
Hmm.
So it has its own character, yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of also gels in with the personality of the person, the whose ears are tuning those sounds.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So let's say I give my modular to somebody,
Yeah.
that person is probably not going to understand anything much, and won't do as much as what a person who's been using it for some time or who has made it from scratch.
That specific
And
modular or like modular in
exactly,
general.
exactly, yeah, specific modular. Because see, unless somebody goes and does the exact permutation and combination of the modules I have,
Hmm.
then the system becomes identical. Otherwise, every modular system is a unique system.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Unless somebody is selling you a complete system, which they do out there, for
Hmm.
people who don't understand how to build it, for example, they can buy a complete system. So let's say you buy that system and I buy that system, it will be identical.
Yeah.
And maybe this, but still, even in that, the sound characters can be different because the oscillators are never same. No two oscillators are same. This is
Hmm.
the beauty of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
and that was like, even for me, a learning experience, that even if I buy from the same company, if I
Yeah.
buy, let's say, 5 different oscillators from the same company
Hmm.
manufacturers,
Hmm.
they are all going to sound different.
So yeah,
So
just for the
that's.
audience, I wanted to say कि oscillator is something that converts electricity into sound, right? That's what it is, into a different wave.
Yes, yes, correct,
Yeah.
correct. So there is an input and output on every module,
Hmm.
and then oscillator is a sound wave generator.
Yeah.
So as soon as you power on a unit and take out the output from the oscillator,
Hmm.
you're going to have some sound,
Yeah.
and it's usually it's a variation of a sine wave. That's either it can be a pure sine,
Hmm.
or it can be square or triangle or sort. It depends. Pulse.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what an oscillator is. And yeah, and then you have other things like envelopes.
Hmm.
Envelopes are it's how the sound grows, lives, and
Hmm.
then decays or goes back.
Hmm.
So that's how the envelope, you can decide how the sound moves
Yeah.
using envelopes. And LFOs can be also used for the same purpose.
Hmm.
Some are slow LFOs, some are fast LFOs. So that's a low frequency oscillator,
Oscillator.
and that's yeah, and that's a very important thing in modulars because that can be like a second person. Like
Hmm.
imagine you're tweaking a knob, and there is a certain sequence that you tweak the knob to, and
Hmm.
there's a
Hmm.
motion. So
Yeah.
that motion of tweaking the knob can be automated using an LFO. The
Yeah.
LFO can do the job of tweaking that knob exactly
Hmm.
how a human tweaks the knob.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now all of this is happening as the modular is like played. So there is no time to kind of like stop and decide and think like, okay, now I'm going to do this and this. It's just like you've got to keep doing something
Hmm.
and keep doing it. I mean, yeah, I know there are people out there who maybe develop a patch sitting on it over maybe a week,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
then I think there is a lot of loss in that in terms of the flow, because it's like the modular, as I said, it gets heated up. So
Hmm.
there's a character, it's developing a character.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I personally feel that it gives you better results when you sit in one go and try to get a patch as much as possible to what it can do maximum,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then keep it there, and then maybe develop on that later on. Okay, that can be done, but then
Hmm.
trying to get it somewhere where it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
is one way process. Like you just
So
have to
how
keep
how do
doing it
you
till
like
you get it.
generally go about it? You take a sound output and you start like fiddling around with the knobs and everything, and you record the whole sound, and then the
Yeah,
drums
well,
and bass comes in
yeah,
later.
yeah. Now,
Hmm.
like in my setup, basically, I've got my idea was to get out of the DAW based system completely. Like I still
Yeah.
use it,
Hmm.
but
Which
there's a
DAW do
different
you use?
process. I'm using FL Studio,
Hmm.
and that's like my DAW of choice because it's very simple to use,
Hmm.
and it's like to record stuff. I just use Edison on that, and then it's very simple. You just it's
Hmm.
what you need is right there. You don't have to open 10 different boxes to get a certain thing to happen, and
Hmm.
I like that. Like it's very straightforward. There's no loss in the creative flow. It's
Hmm.
like I'm not spending too much time on the technicalities of the software. I'm
Hmm.
spending time on actually the creative process of writing the
Hmm.
music
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make the sound. So
Actually, I
that
am an
way it is
Ableton.
very
I teach Ableton essay. If it, yeah, just wanted
right,
to. Yeah.
right,
So as a DAW,
right,
I teach Ableton. But I have seen like
right.
only beat producers and hip hop producers using FL Studio. But you and there's one more guy, Jigar Shah, Silent
Yeah,
Horror. Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
both use FL Studio, the side
yeah,
transceiver.
yeah,
I've seen. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
also,
mean,
I
there are
was
a lot of
expecting
people.
long hair, dude. Like, I was
Yeah,
thinking,
I mean, this all went off when the lockdown started off. So
yeah.
all of this was all gone during that time,
Hmm.
and yeah,
So when I told you like we're going to start by 4 and 4, so I thought it's going to be a different time zone for you. So I wanted to say,
uh-huh.
yeah, bro, it's like Indian standard time. But yeah, apparently you're in
No,
India.
yeah, I'm back home in India only. So
Hmm.
it's yeah,
Where are you
and
in
you have my
Sikkim? No,
number. Sorry.
you're in Sikkim, no?
No. I'm in
Hmm.
Ambernath. It's like about a couple of hours away from Mumbai city.
Acha, 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 acha. Oh, okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
I thought you're Guha, so you must be in Kolkata or in Sikkim.
Yeah, I'm Bengali. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we have a house here, so we stay here.
Acha, you stay.
And
Acha.
yeah, we have some family in Calcutta. We visit them sometimes.
Hmm. So, like, I wanted to ask you, Sarup, like, how did this all begin? You producing music? Did you have a formal training of this before? Before, like, being into that?
Formal. Okay. Well, when I was very young, yeah, I always loved music. I mean, that was my like I was drawn to art and music as my I don't know. Since I was a kid, I was like crazy for art and music. Like I
Mm-hmm.
used to even make up excuses to make up stories to I had some idea, for example, when I was a kid
Mm-hmm.
of having a house on a thermocol, but I didn't
What?
know how to implement it. Yeah, like I wanted to make a house
Uh-huh.
with a farm and like car in the garage and all of that. That was
Mm-hmm.
my vision as a kid. And I
Mm-hmm.
told my mom, I
Mm-hmm.
told her that I have a project for school where we have to make this thing and take it. Actually, it was not true. It was just because I wanted somebody to do it for me and like to, get my idea in motion.
Yeah.
I just created this whole scenario
Uh,
and we did it. I took it to the school and the school people liked it so much that they put it up for an art exhibition eventually.
what do you
So
say, bro?
yeah.
Uh, uh,
So that's just to give you an idea. Like I was mad for art and music, like since I was a kid.
mm.
So then my mom saw that, so she used to develop that in me, like give a lot of time, focus on my art side, and the music side happened where later on when I got a synthesizer, and then my mom and dad put me for like training for learning playing the keyboard organ.
Mm.
But I did for like what, a month, maybe 2 months, I think, so, if I'm not wrong. But then the guy who used to come to teach me, he
Mm.
was, I mean, it's like it's a teacher, right?
I
And
know
the
what you
teacher is going
mean.
to
Yeah,
always,
yeah.
yeah, he's going to teach you everything in the book, and like you have to follow those rules, and you
Mm.
have to play it in a certain manner, and then if
Yeah.
you make a mistake, he would take this pencil and hit my knuckles and all of that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that just totally put me off this whole thing. And then I
Mm.
started crying, and I told my mom, I said, you know what, I don't want to ever learn music from anybody. Like
Mm.
if I do it, I'm going to do it on my own, because this is
Mm.
not the way that somebody teaches somebody music. And I don't like this whole process of learning it from someone with these kind of hard edged rules and like,
Mm.
in the box kind of way and all. It
Yeah,
was
it's
not
not an
for me.
army
So
training or something, dude. Yeah, it should
yeah,
be like.
exactly.
So when did you like decide you want to be like you want to do this full time?
See, that also was it was always in the back of my mind. It's just that because, I had to finish my education and my proper degree and all of that. So I focused on that and didn't pay so much attention on actually getting music out there. But I was still making music at that time
Actually, you do
on
not
my
have a
computer.
degree. You did not do the degree in music. You did it in something else.
No, I'm an electronics engineer, and then
Okay.
I did my MBA after that.
Mm-hmm.
So that took up a lot of time, and then that was important for me to do that. And then I started working, and then all of that life kind of things happened, and then I had a good job in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided one day that I skipped so many jobs, and I enjoyed my corporate life. Like I was in a very good position, getting good money and all of that. But then that was it for me. After a while, I didn't find it challenging enough. I was like, that's it, like that's it, like
Mm-hmm.
seriously, like that's it. Like, okay, what am I getting out of this? I have a nice car, okay, great. Now I've got a nice house, okay, great. I've got good furniture, okay, great. That's it. Like that's it. That's not challenging for me. I said that doesn't mean anything to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, I want to do my music. And like it was, I think, 2007, 6 or 7,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, where
Mm-hmm.
I made that decision of like, saying that from now on music is going to be a serious part of my life. And then eventually I quit my job and went full on into the music and art thing.
Yeah, bro,
And
you've
since
been releasing
then,
music like crazy. I saw your EPs coming back to back, back to back. I'm like, dude, what's happening? I'm not even like able to. I produce like techno, hip hop, and that sort of music, and I take ages to complete a track, dude. I can't tell
right,
you.
right,
Yeah, I first sit with the concept. Okay, this is what I want to do. Then I'll sit for another session. This is how I'll arrange it. Now, then this almost takes a month or two to actually reach to proper
yeah,
stage.
yeah.
But yeah, dude, like hats off to you, man. You've been like continuously releasing music in the lockdown. Also, I guess you released a couple of
Yeah,
EPs,
yeah,
no?
yeah, yeah. I've finished 2 albums. Just one is going to come out soon now. One I
Hmm.
released already.
Hmm.
So the one which was released was like a studio produced album, and now the one which I'm releasing is going to be purely like modular based recording sessions in layers. And then one layer is done, then the second layer, and then the third layer, and that's how the track develops. With
Hmm.
very there's not even minimal, I would say. There's like literally, I don't know what, like maybe 20% of editing in that, which would be just the EQing part, maybe of levels adjustment or something like that.
So you do everything
And it's a
yourself, the mixing, mastering, everything?
yeah. I do everything myself because See, there's a reason for that. Also, it's a feeling, like in especially the kind of music I'm making is it's I don't know how to put it in what kind of box or where, but then I know it's not like what's out there, and I deliberately try to not make things like what's out there.
Hmm.
Like, I want to explore something. I want to try something new all the time.
Yeah.
And I always come across these people who will always say, like, oh, what is that? Like, what note is that? Or what note is that? And what note? But
Nerdy,
but
nerdy.
it's not about that
Hmm.
note, or it's not about
Yeah.
what comes next and what comes before.
Hmm.
It's going beyond that scale factor, beyond that box factor.
Hmm.
And I think that's where our mind is confused to understand, but at the same time it's still harmonically pleasant. You can still dance to it, you can still understand it, but then
Hmm.
the mind is trying to understand something, and then the focus of attention starts to get into that point,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually is where the connection starts to happen. This is
Hmm.
why I do these 12-hour ritual kind of things also,
Hmm.
where it takes time for the mind to kind of adjust to a flow. And
Hmm.
then once it's psychological, like once a
Yeah.
human develops the mind to flow in a certain way, after a while you can negate that.
Hmm.
Then what you connect with is actually the nature, the surrounding which is around you.
That's what I
So
was. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. You were saying.
yeah,
Sorry. Hmm.
so
No. No.
music then is just like a guide. It's like it becomes
Hmm.
like a doorway. You
Hmm.
enter through the music, and then you're in somewhere which is unique for everybody.
Hmm.
So this is what I do with the 12 hours things.
Yeah, man. Like I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of days back. So I went to this party like last week. So it was a techno gig. So I was telling my friend, dude, what the difference in an instrumental music and a vocal music is with vocal you get images. Like if I'm saying apple, you'll see an apple. But in an
Correct.
instrumental music, you're just there. Every sound is coming
Correct.
one after the other. So it's almost like being like all of these meditation and all these guys are telling you to be in the moment. So this instrumental music is like that, like be it techno or be it psytrance or be it jazz or any sort of instrumental music, it kind of keeps you there. It's not
Correct.
forming any images in your head of the word that comes out. So yeah, anyway, that was my
Absolutely.
thought.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. You see, even sometimes I feel that the track names can be the only, probably, the conditioning that goes on into
Hmm.
the release of a particular track.
How do you come
Because
up with the name,
if it
Rasa?
okay, the naming is kind of happening like when I'm either working on the track
Hmm.
or after I finish the track.
Hmm.
And sometimes if it's a concept based track, like let's say a label tells me that they want to release a concept on Mahadev, or let's say they want to release a concept on some epic saga that happened, with some composition, and they want to like a tribute kind of a thing.
Hmm.
So then there's already a concept, so the name is right from the beginning, and there's a concept to it also. But
Hmm.
then most of the work which I do, where I just name them, spontaneously happens during the process of writing or
Hmm.
after I finish it. And that's how it goes. Like, but then I still sometimes feel, like, do we really have to name it? Unfortunately, yeah, we have to name it. But then you know what? That's like that's the only
I know
conditioning
what
part.
you
No,
mean.
like you mentioned the picturization thing.
Uh,
So like imagine like the music can be having like infinite possibilities of somebody to visualize anything, but
hmm.
then if you give that whole piece a name,
Hmm.
then it's just the mind, the mind deliberately goes into that name to try to find that in the track.
Hmm. Bro, so you know what happened? Like this was some 7, 8 years back. So I went to this gig in Delhi. Goa Gill was playing over there. So
Yeah.
so he played for like say 8, 9 hours. Or bro, like after the sixth hour, actually I started to see the frequencies that were happening. I'm like, dude, what the hell is this? Like everything was
Yeah.
floating,
Yeah.
and I could
Yeah.
actually see the shapes happening of the sound. I'm like, dude, this is crazy, man. And that was like one of
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
initial gigs of psytrance that I had attended back then. I'm like, dude, this is something
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hypnotic, and there's something to it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just like
Definitely.
people popping pills and dancing to the
Definitely.
music.
No, 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 not at all. Not
Hmm.
at all. not at all. I mean, that's
What do
something
you
that I've
call your
always
music as? Is
advocated
it
right from the start.
psytrance? Is it psytrance music? Is what you call
Not
your?
really. I would say it's psychedelic. It's psychedelic. Yes, it's psychedelic, and it's
Hmm.
dance friendly.
Yeah.
So it could be psychedelic dance music, or it could be like whatever. But I don't like to call it anything. Most
Hmm.
people, just because you can't define it, they just call it experimental, because you can't put it in any box. So anything that is not going in a box nowadays goes under the category of experimental.
Experimental. My friend was saying, dude, come sit on my lap and we'll play keyboard together. It'll be experimental.
So yeah, and yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, like this
Hmm.
movement, it's true.
Hmm.
I mean, when you talk about movement, it's very spiral kind of movement that happens in music, like especially in psychedelic music. And I'm not just talking about with percussions, even Pink Floyd stuff. Like you listen
Hmm.
to some of the old stuff,
Hmm.
it's very spiral based music where it's all flowing, and it's
Hmm.
not so much of a loopitous where you can't. It's not in a loop. It's like just going and going and going and going.
Hmm.
And it's like, what do you call it? It's a wave. When you surf, if someone surfs, you have to catch the surf, and then you just have to keep going with it. You can't really
Hmm.
decide where to go. You have to go with that flow.
Yeah.
And I think that's how psychedelic music is. Like, it just takes you, and you have to be ready
Hmm.
and open-minded to explore where it will take you. But it's
Yeah.
never going to hurt you, that's for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. So that's what makes it psychedelic, that it has to keep going, and every layer
Yeah, yeah,
has to have like a continuous
yeah.
movement. There's no loop.
Definitely. So you think about it as a golden ratio, Fibonacci series and stuff like that. There
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
there are some tracks I've written even based on that.
Oh,
And I
okay.
know Sectoria does the same also. They also write a lot of music based on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's also, it's coming from the same principles of spiraling music. Music is going, and you just keep going with it. That's one way of it. Obviously, I
So how
mean,
do you
if
like
you want.
involve Fibonacci in this? Like you keep the rhythm pattern in that, or
Yeah.
rhythm of
Yeah,
the
it can
sound
be. Yeah,
pattern?
it can be either rhythm. It can be rhythm patterns. It can also be progressions. Like,
Hmm.
let's say, next ambient chord progression, or a sequence progression can come after those certain numbers of the Fibonacci sequence.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it can be in that way, but it works better with percussions because the smaller fragments can be all put together through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also use the 432 hertz part of it sometimes in tracks, but that's again not by rule book.
Hmm.
It's by the ears,
Yeah.
and because most of the instruments are all tuned to 440 hertz, unfortunately,
Hmm. Hmm.
except the modular.
Yeah.
So if any sound is automatically, it goes harmonically into that tuning of 440 hertz, whether
Hmm.
we like it or not. It's always going to be like that because the instrument is like that.
Hmm.
So to get over that, I went with the ears part and the feeling part and the frequency on a spectrum, analyzer, to see where the peaks are.
Hmm.
So I try to get the resonant frequency coming closest to 432 hertz, and then keep a few sounds which are peaking at that particular resonant frequency,
Hmm.
and everything else kind of moves around it. So that becomes the heart of the track, and everything else is moving around that. So then automatically even though they are in 440 hertz, but they
Hmm.
are still synced harmonically with the 432 hertz bit,
Yeah.
which is the dominant peaking frequency.
Hmm.
So that's how I do it. And there is not one way to do it. There are so many different ways. People tune their instruments to 432 hertz and then play and make it happen.
Hmm.
But the drawback in that is, what? The thing is, everything then gets focused into 432 hertz.
Hmm.
And then there's a big mess. Like there's a gel of sounds which are too condensed in that
Hmm. Hmm.
432 hertz.
And then what happens? It
So
starts
then
to sound boxy. Like what?
exactly, it sounds like muddy, or it sounds a bit too irritating after a while. You can't hear it for longer periods of time.
Hmm.
So I think using a variation of different tunings it kind of opens up the spectrum, and it gives the sound more clarity, plus you can pick out, even if it's multiple complex layers, you can always pick up individual layers, like your ears. If you say, okay, now I'm listening to the bass, you can listen to the bass. If you want to listen to the leads, you can listen to the leads. If you want to listen to the percussions, you can listen to the percussions. So it's like we kind of start to train our ears to dig and find these sounds, and then ride that wave for some time, and then change it. Okay, now let's listen to the lead for some time, and then we can ride the lead for some time, and then change it, then go to the ambience, because that's how the structure is of a psytrance track. It's so complex that we can do that.
So when I was actually learning music initially, so I went up to this friend of mine. He's like, what do you call this? Big room. He produces big room music. He's quite famous. So he was telling me, dude, like now that you're starting, I used to like really. I told you the story of Goa Gill, no? So this was what? It was around that time. So he told me, don't start with psytrance music, dude. It's so complex. Just start with some, basic sort of music. Start with some, you know, techno music or big room music. Don't go into psytrance and all. You lose the track only in the first place. Like, dude, I'm high on that music now. I want to do that. So, like, what's your like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's
Yeah. So I was
even
about.
I started
Dude, video is lagging. Sorry.
uh,
Yeah, it's lagging. There's like a internet issue.
yeah, I know. I problem over here. My this data is not good, I think, or not stable or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you properly, but your
I keep
video
getting
has
this
frozen.
changes of my data happening all the time.
Oh yeah, it's sorted now. Yeah. Your video is
Okay,
moving and I can
is
hear
it
you
better
clearly.
now?
Yeah, it's killer. Yeah, it's good. So yeah, what's your like process of making like a proper
Okay,
track? Do you come up with like
okay,
individual layers? You record first, then second layer, then third layer. This is how you produce your music?
right, right,
Hmm.
right. So I'm more of an improvisation based recording I do, which is layer by layer, yeah. But my standard way, I would say, if it's by studio production mode, then it's like I make a kick and my bass line, which is the driving element throughout the track. I try to get the whole backbone with the kick and bass going
Hmm.
and create the whole flow. Basically, the kick and bass is kind of driving everything that moves with it.
Hmm.
And then I go later on and I change it. But then sometimes I do with percussion, where percussion becomes the driving force independently.
Hmm.
And sometimes I start with the ambience. Again, it's feeling, no? So
Hmm.
I record it. Let's say I have a bar, maybe 32 or maybe 16 or maybe more, 64, depends. Or if
Hmm.
it's a different time signature, if it's a 3x4, then it's a different length again. So I don't really plan that. I just play, and then if it sounds good, okay, record. That's one layer done. And
Hmm.
that's how the track started.
Yeah.
So now everything goes as complementing to that, and then to the next would be complementing to the one before, and so on and so on and so on. So that's how I work in layers. Basically, it's all layers, and recording, one takes recording mostly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's where I also believe in the human element factor, where I'm not so fussy with the whole, grid based structure that everything has to be aligned to a specific grid pattern and it has to fit in that. And if it doesn't, then it's not proper. I'm not OCD. Not I don't have that
I know
OCD
what you
for
mean.
music and art at all. Yeah,
I
but
have that
but I know.
OCD though.
Yeah. There are many who have it, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is
Hmm.
one way of producing, and that is one way of writing music.
Hmm.
But I'm more of an improvisation based kind of, like, if you see jazz musicians,
Hmm.
play live and jam, even in Indian classical jugalbandi and stuff like that. You see how they just keep going. They keep going. There is no
Hmm.
just happening, and everything is going. Energy is just going. I like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's very uplifting, I think, and there's no time to sit and become your own critique for even a single moment, because you're
Hmm.
enjoying your process of creation so much that
Hmm.
there is no time to sit and criticize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I criticize it after I finish it, Like after I finish it, okay,
of course, it has to
yeah,
develop.
yeah, exactly.
uh,
So and then I have very limited love span. So which means I kind of like what I do for the first maybe few days, maybe, and then I play it or release it, and then I don't like it anymore. Like I just don't like it at all. I want to do something different and try something different. I
hmm.
always listen to some old stuff and say, "Oh my God, really? Like, oh no, man, did I like just release that?" Like it's like that.
And
So
even my friends didn't tell me what kind of friends I. So, like, you're doing
so
this
yeah,
full time, dude? Like, are you doing something else also apart from music?
yeah. I mean, I do my art part, which is my graphic designing, and
Ah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I get clients who want to do CD covers and flyers, posters, and T-shirt designs and corporate makeovers, branding, logo, all of that. Like basically everything under the creative umbrella, I'm
Hmm.
taking care of that on my own.
Hmm.
And apart from that, I get some mastering projects like for music mastering and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I do only that. Basically, music and art is what I'm doing now. I mean, I quit the corporate world, man. I was there. I've enjoyed that
Hmm.
and to good positions and all of that. As I told you, like,
Yeah.
but I was done with that. Like,
But then this lockdown happened and the corona happened. So how did you like
yeah,
sustain your
yeah.
lifestyle?
Well, to be honest, like since I quit the system and since I started to do my own thing, my way, I had to have a very minimal lifestyle. I had to kind of cut down on what I can expect in life and what I
Hmm.
can do in life. I mean, I
Hmm.
can do a lot of things, but
Hmm.
then I had to compromise a lot of things,
Hmm.
happily compromise them,
Hmm.
so that I know I can't live a life based on expectation. I have to live a life based on what I have and how I can manage what I have and live according to that. So it becomes very easy for me. Like I don't
Can you
complain. Like
elaborate a
even when
little bit on that?
yeah, sure.
Hmm.
Like, see, I rely on gigs, I rely on my releases and on this work that comes in. So it's
Yeah.
not a lot of money, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. It's not like a recurring monthly salary. So obviously, it's
Yeah.
not a lot of money.
And also, it's a very
And
niche music, no? So yeah, it comes with
correct,
yeah.
exactly, correct.
Hmm.
So what I have to do is once I get a chunk of money, I need to decide on what I'm going to do with that money.
Hmm.
So mostly it is keeping it there for my everyday living, buying food and living, expenses and stuff gets taken care of by that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So in that again, my food habits are such that I eat one time meal and I eat good breakfast and just have one meal. I skip a meal in the night, and that's good enough for me because I know my lifestyle is so, what do you call it, like at home based, that if I eat more than what I need, I'm going to become too fat. So
Yeah.
I try to balance it out in that perspective. So yeah, I mean that way I'm saying, like minimal because in a good way, like
Hmm.
taking being aware of my life and what I eat, how much I eat, how when to do exercise, when, like all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So for that again, I don't think I need a lot of money because I can do with like normal food, with even dal bath khichdi, that kind of stuff is good enough for me and I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Are you
So
married? Are you single?
I was married,
Hmm.
not married anymore. Like
Hmm.
again, that was because of the same thing. My art and music was a bit too.
Was the priority.
Yeah, it was my priority.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that didn't work out.
Mhm. Yeah, it's good. It's like it happens for good, dude. Everything happens for good.
Yeah.
So, like, who is your favorite producer or who's your inspiration? By the way, dude, I want to tell you, your music and Zikri Naira's music is what I feel is very similar. Dude. Like, you have that same sort of tribal vibe and, that thing going. Yeah, so I
And who you said? Who did you
Zikri,
mention?
Zikri Naira, if that's how you say
Ah,
it.
Hikuri Naira. Yeah.
Hikuri, oh,
Hikuri
it's
Naira.
it's
Yeah.
Hikuri
Yeah.
Naira. Okay, I
Hikuri
used
Naira.
to call
Right.
him Zikri
Right.
Naira. Yeah. So that sort of music is what I feel. It's very tribal yet psychedelic and very powerful.
Thank you, bro. Thank you
Hmm.
very much. Actually, thanks for having me on this and doing this thing. Like
Thank you, buddy.
earlier,
Thank you for
we are in India only now. We should just chat and keep in touch anyway.
yeah, of course. Dude. So like, yeah, I was asking who's your inspiration for like psychedelic music or psychedelic dance?
Well, psychedelic music, if you ask me, my roots go back to Goa trance days. So
Mhm.
that's where I started. Even my production, earlier production, were all mainly like Goa trance based production. So
Early 90s.
electronic music, yeah, early 90s, yeah.
Hmm.
So groups like Ethnica and Astral Projection at that time, MFG, Hallucinogen, uh, what's that? Man with No Name,
Man with me.
and yeah, and there were a lot of groups back then. Like there was even Shiva Shidapu, and
Hmm.
Infected Mushroom came later on.
Hmm.
So so all these were like back in the days, and Hallucinogen was always there. Like for me, I think what Simon Posford was doing back then was like wow, with
Hmm.
synthesizers and stuff. He started very early and then fused it with the organic elements of Rajaram, with the flute and all of that, with the
Hmm.
vocal stuff
Hmm.
happening. So then Spongle came up, and so that's like goosebump kind of music started to
Oh,
happen.
sure. I'm having goosebumps right now, dude. Thank you. Because
So yeah, so
I've
these are
listened
like
to
they are
Spongle like for 2-3 years continuously. Like, no other artist. I was just listening to
yeah,
Spongle.
evergreen, evergreen, evergreen,
Mm,
evergreen. Seriously,
mm,
very rich psychedelic music, and I think it's evergreen. Their music will live forever. It's like that.
yeah. Him
And
and they and
so yeah,
Shulman as well. Shulman. Yeah.
Shulman also, yes.
Mm. Yeah, sorry, you were saying
And
something.
then out of the psychedelic, I would say there are a lot of jazz musicians, like just the whole genre of jazz. I love jazz a lot. So everybody, like in the jazz thing, like anybody, even the youngsters who are doing jazz, they know how to go with the flow, and they enjoy that also. It's that like if you don't do jazz, I like it. It's like that.
Jazz has that feel to groove you. Okay. Do you
Yeah,
like
yeah.
any bands from India? Jazz bands from India?
I don't know much of jazz bands from India, to be honest, and I'm not so much of like following, like, names or something like that.
Really kick ass bands.
Yeah. I used
Yeah.
to watch this thing called Coke Studio, and then a lot of
Mm.
live bands used to come and play on Coke Studio, right? I used to love
Mm-hmm.
that. I
Yeah.
used to watch some of these YouTube videos, and then Atif Aslam and all also were put on
Uh,
it. I think AR Rahman did a
yeah.
few also.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was killer stuff. Like wow, yeah, that was killer stuff.
For sure.
I
Who do
I,
you
I
like
remember
more?
at that time.
Do you like the Pakistan wala Coke Studio more or अपने वाला यहाँ पे जो Coke Studio
I think
Bombay वाला?
it's not. I don't think it's. I think it's different. Yeah, of course. Like, but music is music. No, I mean it doesn't matter. Like whatever is sounding
Say
good.
no.
Seriously.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, I'm very much about that. Where music is music. Like if it sounds
Uh,
good, it doesn't matter where it's played. Like even Sufi music is killer music. I love Sufi music so much. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan
hmm.
and like
That's
wow.
what I'm saying. Their music is
They,
better, dude. Their Coke Studio is better.
so yeah, I mean, I prefer that kind of stuff. Obviously, yeah, more than the 4x4 standard kind of major based music. The major chords and the
Hmm.
major
Hmm.
harmonic progression and stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah,
Great, man. So, like, what is like the average duration? You just complete your track. Do you complete
yeah.
it?
With the modular now it's different. But if it's a studio produced track,
Hmm.
now I'm doing it maybe in 1 or 2 days. I can finish a
Full
track
track,
in one or two.
start to end.
Yeah, start to end in 1 or 2 days. But that's also because I'm using a lot of hardware to
Hmm.
record stuff.
Hmm.
So it's very fast. The process is very fast because I'm using hardware for recording.
Hmm.
Whereas if I were to sit and program everything on MIDI and then write notes and stuff, then it takes 3 days, 4 days, maybe sometimes a week. I sit sometimes and then come back tomorrow and do another segment, come back the next day and do another segment or something like that. But usually it's not like that anymore. Usually it's like I've got equipment, so I just decide, okay, I want to put this percussion on it. So I start up the percussion synthesizer, then play the percussion, program it on it, and then record it as a layer, which is played basically. I play it live, and as I'm playing it, I'm recording whatever I'm doing. So it gets recorded as one layer, and that's how the next one would be, let's say, ambience or leads or whatever. And again, that's like one layer, it's done. It's like I don't think so much as like going back, oh no, not that, let's do it again. No, it's like what's done is done. Like it's in the moment, what happened, it happened. And if there was that little bit of off here and there or whatever, off time or whatever, I leave it, because that's where the
yeah,
whole,
of course. Yeah.
you know, that swing element comes in.
Bro, I was listening to this interview by FX Twins, no? Back like this interview was in 1998. So this reporter came up to him and asked him, "Ki, dude, you received a couple of advertisement projects. Why did you not do it? They were asking you to make changes to your music." So he said, "Dude, I had made the music already. If they want me to make a different music, it'll be a different music. Then they'll have to pay more for it." you know,
Right.
like it's a different piece. I can't make changes to that. That has happened already. Like, dude, he's saying that on MTV. I'm like, dude, sahi hai wo.
Yeah. FX Twin is like amazing. I mean, even his minimal stuff is very, it sounds very complex. Even the minimal stuff that he's worked on sounds complex. And you know this guy, what's his name? Martin Gore from Depeche Mode. From Depeche Mode.
No, I don't know this guy, but I know Depeche Mode. Yeah.
Okay, Depeche Mode. So this guy, he's come up with a solo album, Martin. He's come up with a solo. It's very similar to the works of Aphex Twin. You should check it out. Since you like techno stuff also, this is like, I would recommend checking it out. It's called MG. And he's got a whole album out, which is very different. Like, if you listen to it, you'll never say that that's one of the guys from Depeche Mode who's written that album. It's like that. It's like very unique album, and it's pretty psychedelic also, even though it's very minimal and kind of groovy techno based, but it's electronically very psychedelic.
Do you ever plan to make techno music, or have you released any techno music?
I have done in the past, and I have done like I've done even like remixes of Insomnia, Faithless Insomnia, and Stereo Love of Edward Maya and all of that kind of stuff. But these are like just fun projects. Like they're just they're not released or whatever. Like they're very fun projects. And I had made up a SoundCloud account, I remember, called for Stereotropy, was the name that I wanted to give for a techno kind of this mushy kind of tracks, like Edward Maya remix. I mean, you can imagine what kind of stuff. So it was like that, and I thought of calling it Stereotropy, but then it never happened because, man, what to tell you, like there was no soul in it for me, like to chase that side,
It's there's something to it that you can't be with it for a long time. I don't know what that is, but there's something to it.
Yeah. Also, I feel like it's people relate to it very easily. Like people can relate to that very easily, because it's kind of an understood kind of music, I call it, which is very easy to understand.
Entry level sort of music.
Yeah. Well, not really. More predictable. Like I would say, even there are some complex stuff out there, but then it's predictable. We know what's going to happen after a certain segment or after a certain bar. Like now there's going to be a drop, now there's going to be a rise, and now there's going to be an interlude, and after the interlude there's going to be a sudden bang or a stop, and then it comes back again. So all this is kind of predictable things that are happening.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts me off, where I'm like, okay, like, but that's like everybody's doing that, like everybody's kind of using the same approach or the same way of making it, and that makes it too much in the box. I believe if music wants to evolve, then people need to start doing something completely different. And there are ways to do it, like without following structures, maybe is one way to start. And initially, I know it won't be accepted. I know people be like, wow, that's like great. The first reaction would be like, what is that? Like, what did I just hear? That's the reaction that most people would give, is like, what the hell was that? Like, that's the whole thing. Okay, I think that means it's worked. Like, I see it as, okay, so that means I'm doing something right. Like, if people don't understand it so easily, it means it's pushing them to try to understand something in there. And that's looking at it in the people perspective. In my own perspective, I never give it a thought. Like, I'm just doing what I do for me, and to grow and to learn and explore something new all the time.
Yeah.
But when I speak to people, this is the reaction I get from people, where some people would be like, yeah, I understand, we are like advanced listeners, we know all this, like we can understand its complex structures. And then you'll find the other side where people are like, what the hell was that? Like, oh my god. like 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 this kind of reaction, like. But yeah, that's normal, I guess.
Yeah, of course. So in this typical music, let's say in the music scene or like the popular tracks, they have to like come up with a catchy hook so that it sticks in the head
Yeah,
and people
yeah,
start
yeah,
humming. Like they can
yeah,
hum with it on a guitar, or. That's what major record labels also want you to do. Like it has to
yeah,
have that
yeah,
catchy hook to it. Be it whatever that you make, is it whatever, like if it's rap music, or like whatever that you do. Bro, Swaroop, I wanted to ask you, like, why do you do what you do? Like, why psychedelic music? Why not say, a singer-songwriter, or like, I'm not like, asking you to like,
right, right,
yeah.
sure,
But
sure.
how did you reach to this key? I want to do this, not like
It's a
a.
niche. Yeah, totally, I totally get it. And like, I know it myself, man. Like, I know
Hmm,
that I'm not making enough money with what I'm doing. So
hmm.
it's not for the money, and
Yeah, of
it's
course
more
it's
like,
not money.
so it is what keeps me happy, and it keeps my mind challenged, actually.
Hmm,
So this is why I do this kind of music, or make this kind of music, is because it makes me explore certain realms which I have not explored before. And every time I sit, it's a new thing.
realm
And
of what, like your emotions, your mind, like what?
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I wouldn't just sit mechanically to write music. I would never just sit and just make music because I have to make music. No, it's like I have to feel it. I might take a month's break, maybe, or 2 months break without music, and not sitting to write music at all.
Hmm,
And then suddenly I'll get into this whole mode where it's non-stop, like for 1 week, 2 weeks, I finish an album. It's like that. So it's like, when the calling comes, I have to be ready to take that call.
hmm,
And and that's what I wait for, is that the call comes, and then I need to take it, and I need to sit. And then it becomes my personal space, with a connection with something which is very unique, which is beautiful, which is helping me to grow and understand and learn in the process.
hmm,
So anything that comes in the way becomes a disturbance for me. Like, I even keep food as just something that I have to go and do.
hmm.
And even sometimes my mom comes, and she, like, when I'm in the process of making music, if she comes and calls out to me, I get like, whoa, like complete, like
Yeah.
startled, like, because it's
Hmm.
in it's in a different zone. Sometimes
Yeah.
my heart stops, man. Like my heart
I know
literally
what you
stops. Like,
mean.
I tell her, like, mom, don't do that, like, I'll get a heart attack. When I just stop.
I know this happens. This happens during meditation also. Like, yeah, so
Yeah,
when
exactly,
somebody enters,
exactly,
either you starts to get really angry, like, or
exactly,
you get shocked. Like,
exactly.
what just
Yeah,
happened?
yeah, yeah. And that's like, after that, to get back again, to calm down, it takes like a few minutes, and
Mm.
then you're back in the zone.
Yeah,
And then,
you have
okay,
to
everything
forgive
starts to
them,
flow
and
again.
yeah. Yeah, they're just human beings, dude. That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, my parents are very, very understanding in that perspective. Like, initially, the first few years when I quit this system and all of that, they were like very worried, because my dad knows, like, I was doing so well, and I have education, good education, and I could have done much more with that. So it was kind of a little bit of a thing, like for them. But then I had to make them understand that, look, this is what keeps me happy. So if this is where my happiness is, then don't worry. Like, I'm really happy, I'm not going out there for the money, and I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because it keeps me happy. So that's the answer, I think, to your question also, as in why I'm doing this particular genre. It's because it keeps me happy. And I have this chill out project also, which I do side by side, which is kind of balancing it out. Sometimes I go full power, and then sometimes I go with mellow and chill out and
Mm.
harmonically and sweet sounding or whatever, and then it's all mood based. So that's it's just, I don't know, it's just flowing, no? And I'm just going with that flow.
Mm.
So I
So
would put it in that way.
if one wants to like sustain their lifestyle and still do like, underground or niche music, what would you
Yeah.
suggest? Like if there's a guy like in a 11th standard or like 10th standard who wants to
Well,
start.
there are people who come to me and ask me, they want to take classes and they want to quit their studies and start to get into music and all of that kind of stuff also.
Mm,
And I keep telling them that, hey man, listen, you go get your education, no matter what field it is, but go get that degree, get that
mm,
piece of paper in your hand,
mm,
and then you do what you want to do with your music, because not always the music career is going to click for everybody. And this is
mm.
the harsh reality
Yeah.
of of how things are out there. See, there are people who can do what's out there and do the
Mm,
best out of it. Like somebody can imitate, let's say, a singer or a songwriter, and do
mm.
much better than that singer and songwriter out there.
Yeah.
Any genre, I'm talking about any genre.
Mm,
But then very few people can cut it by being unique and having or developing their own unique niche out there. That, if somebody can do, then you can be very happy and very, not successful I would say, but very happy, in terms of
yeah.
you won't have any complaints of any sort, because you're not doing something to compete with anyone. You
Yeah.
have your own signature, work, sound, whatever it is.
Mm.
And you're not looking for followers. It's just that it's discovery based
What
way
if
of
you
working.
are like, what if you are searching for followers and you want to like be big in the music scene? So like, what about like
Okay,
that?
for someone who wants to do that, then that has to be the focus of attention. Like that person needs to focus their attention in that direction and in that perspective.
Mm,
Then they need to keep their standards very high. Like, you
mm,
need people need to start to think that I want to be the best out there, and to be the best, I need to
mm,
do something, even though what is being done, but I need to do it better than what's out there. So
mm,
keeping that in mind, if somebody is going with that belief, then
mm.
nothing can stop them. It's that belief,
Like,
that strong
what's
belief.
what's
That
your
belief.
point of view about guys like Baj? Have you heard about this guy Badshah who does Bollywood music?
No, is that
Baj,
percussion guy?
no, Badshah, Honey Singh. Have you heard about it?
Oh no, I'm not into Bollywood. I mean,
No?
I've heard, yeah, I know who these people are, but I'm like,
Huh.
maybe I've heard
So
a few tracks
they're
of
not
them, but
musicians. They're not musicians at all. They haven't taken any training. They don't play any instrument. They don't even know how to rap good. Like rap also is a
right.
skill. They can't even rap properly. But then they are
Okay.
famous and they get like around 10 lakh, no, not even 10 lakh, dude. It's around 40 lakh a gig or something that they charge.
My God.
Yeah. So I'm like, dude, it's not talent. It's not talent that these people are over there. Like, it's not their talent. It's something else. It's marketing. It's something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
something else.
yeah, yeah.
They don't
See,
even
if
look
if you
good.
ask me,
Ki
I'll tell
like,
you something. Okay,
huh,
there is, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, see, when you look at it in that perspective, no, this
hmm,
whole music scene, the whole creative side of the
hmm,
people who have become some very big people, have got a very big hand behind them also. Like
hmm,
this is there is no hiding that. I mean, today they get a pull from the big people out there, because there is something that they do where it's benefiting somebody somewhere down the line,
hmm,
or somebody is getting something out of it, or there's something there. Like there is always a give and take happening over there. So
hmm,
that's the reason why these people get, like, otherwise you think about it, man. Like these popular guys overnight, suddenly in the Billboard top 100, there is
yeah,
some unknown person in number one chart. Like overnight, 1,000 copies have sold when nobody knows
hmm,
who this person is. How
Yeah.
the hell did he sell 1,000
Like
copies?
that
Like, who bought his
Despacito
copy?
guy, you remember? Like he came out of
Yeah.
nowhere. Yeah.
So exactly, how does this happen? Like, that's
Hmm.
because there is something which we don't know what happens behind the scenes,
Hmm.
and that just leave it to where that is. Like that is their forte, and they're doing it for their
Hmm.
reason, for whatever
Hmm.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story that happened with me. Somebody contacted me at one point and said that I came across your profile as a musician and artist, and that I belong to a certain cult,
Hmm.
and that if you join this cult, I'll make sure that whatever you want, I can make you achieve it.
Hmm.
But you have to follow the rules and what we tell you to do and how we tell you to do, when to make the release, what to do, everything. If you do it in that way, then we'll guarantee that you will get what you have to get: your money, your fame, your people, your likes, your blah blah blah. I'm
What is
like,
it? It's like a
man,
formal mail that he sent you?
yeah. He
What is
headhunted, basically. Yeah, yeah. He's supposed to be some kind of a headhunter,
Okay.
and they have a website. I don't want to name it because it's pretty
Ah, of course.
sensitive stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
they have a website and all that, and that they were recruiting, and that this guy was like the head recruiter, whatever, agent and whatever.
Hmm.
And he contacted, and all that kind of stuff happened also, and he
Hmm.
got my WhatsApp. He came and contacted me through the WhatsApp, first through
What are you
Instagram, then
saying?
yeah, then through the WhatsApp and all of that. And so yeah, man, it's real,
That's
all this is
freaky.
real.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this is real. This is not like what they say about the behind the scenes of the music and art industry, about how these big people get bigger and bigger, and there's a support factor and all. It's true. It's very
Hmm.
much true. So
Hmm.
there's always some godfather behind these big guys.
Of course. Like there's a friend of mine, dude. Like I'll tell you, that he's a musician. He does Hindi music. He's sort of a rapper. He's not a rapper. But like he has been making music. Like he learned it from me only initially. He like how to like use the DAW and everything. Now he has been releasing music, and he has got a producer now. Like who's producing his videos, his audio, his mixing, mastering, and everything. He releases it, distributes the music properly. So he's investing on him because he likes his music, and the producer has some extra money lying around that he might want to justify. I don't want to get into like proper details of what he wants to do with the money, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's how he got a producer for himself, and he's now releasing it. He's making videos, like proper, like good videos, and yeah, he gets views and all, but yeah, he's not doing live. So that's what I wanted to ask you, like for a music producer, apart from like distributing music and live performance, how can a musician make money on live?
So live performance, obviously, or playing out gigs is where the main money is, and then
Hmm.
releases really don't make much money, because after a month or two it gets pirated. Somebody pirates it and makes it available for free somewhere, MP3 format or whatever.
Hmm.
So the other way, there is no other way, to be honest. Maybe through giving classes, if they are reputed enough, where they believe that what they have learned is good enough to share,
Hmm.
and good enough to as a knowledge sharing experience more
Do
than a
you
teaching
ever plan
experience.
to?
Because
Do you ever plan to
that's
be
the
an
thing. That's the
educator?
thing. You see, I believe that I don't think I can teach, because I think teaching is a very harsh word. Like, if I'm learning, if
Hmm.
I'm a student all the time, then there is
Hmm.
no way I can call myself a teacher to teach someone.
Bro,
Like,
in
all I can
music, though,
do
you're
is
always going to be a student. No? Even Zakir and Sen
exactly,
also. Yeah.
exactly. So that's the whole depth of what I believe in, is
Hmm.
that music, and the way music is an individualistic thing,
Hmm.
where we can only show somebody that, okay, you know what, that's a door, that's how you hold the handle, and that's how you turn it around and you
Hmm.
open it.
Hmm.
But then, how to walk into that and what happens next and all of that is left to the person.
Of
So
course.
I believe that if person is given the foundations or the basics
Hmm.
of music,
Yeah.
which is, okay, this is your key structure, this is your sare gama, this is your do re mi, whatever, and these are the basic chords, this is the major, this is the minor scale, okay, that's
Hmm.
in your music theory part, that's it. And then the everything else, which is like your synthesizer part, which is what is an LFO, what is an oscillator, and what is an envelope generator, and all of that,
Hmm.
and then leave it. give the person his or her own space and his or her own time to experiment, try and error, and in the process search for that sound that becomes a signature sound for that person. So I think that's how I call it more as a knowledge sharing experience more than a teaching experience,
mm, mm,
where maybe a workshop or maybe a 1 month's workshop is probably enough for
mm,
someone to get this much of an idea of
mm,
the basics of everything, and then you leave that person to go and become somebody, that is in their hands. Because there is no, I don't think there anyone can teach somebody, like, unless you're teaching them how to play an instrument. That's a different thing. Like,
mm,
if somebody comes and says, you know what, you play sarangi, I want to learn how to play the sarangi from you, that's
mm,
a different experience, because
mm.
sarangi, there is a set way to play it. There's
Mm.
no other way than to play how sarangi is meant to be played. Same
Yeah.
way for a guitar, same way for everything. But if it comes to the process of creating music,
Mm.
there's no box for it. There's no certain rules or parameters for it. So how can you teach someone? You can't really
Yeah.
teach someone how to write music or how to make music, create music. Not
Yeah.
possible.
This thing reminds me of like a really killer story I heard from somewhere. So Buddha, Gautama the Buddha, he used to like after enlightenment, he used to like sit with groups and all, and he used to teach them meditation, like what we call as meditation. So one guy came up to him and said, "Ki Buddha, you know so much. Why can't you just enlighten just other people also? Like since you have so much power, you're such a great man. Just just give your enlightenment, spread it to other people." So he asked him, ki, I have been like he has this discourse in the evening. Buddha has a discourse where he teaches ki, you have to do everything yourself. This, but this after like 10 days, this same thing comes up to him. Like same guy comes up to him and said, ki, dude, why can't you just enlighten other people also? So he said, "Okay, I have a different story for this guy. So let me just ask him like what his state of mind is." So he asked him, "Where are you from?" So he says, "Ki back in those days, Bihar used to be Shravasti." So he asked him, "You're not from Shravasti, are you?" Okay, yes, I am from here. I work here, this and that. But he said, Ki, "You don't look like you're from here. You're from somewhere else." He says, "Yeah, yeah, I'm from Megda, some old like town. I don't remember the name." So he said, "If someone is going to ask you, Ki, how to reach to that place, are you going to keep it a secret?" He says, "No, no, I won't keep it a secret. I'll just tell him, yeah, go there, go there, go there, go there." So yeah, he said that's how it is. Like I have walked that path. I can just tell you how to walk on it,
Correct.
where to go from. I can just, hold your finger for a bit. After that, you have to walk yourself. I
Correct.
can't because I have my own journey also going on. I am also a human being. I have my journey going on. So yeah, so that totally unrelated stuff. But yeah, this guru thing that came up to me. Yeah, कि
See,
guru can
this is,
only just walk with you for a few steps and then
correct. Correct. That I believe that that's why there's a track which I wrote, which I named "Evoke the Guru in You." That was
mm,
like the track in my album Patanjali, and that was like, for me, literally, I believe that like everybody's got a guru within, and
mm,
it's just that we need to seek that guru within, and with all our might and with all our strength, we need to go find that inner guru.
mm,
And that's where most of the people in our world are using that to find their external guru,
yeah,
and they will give everything, and they will bow, and they will shed their money, and they shed their blood, and they shed their lives for that external guru.
mm,
But then that only creates an egocentric, hierarchy based system out there.
yeah, yeah,
So there has to be a level of individualism where a person should understand that the most important and the biggest guru is inside that person.
yeah,
So
yeah,
first we need to seek that guru, make
mm,
friends with that guru, and then that becomes our guide on
yeah,
every level, not just for music, not just for art, but just in the process of living life itself. No,
mm,
so definitely, man, I would encourage anybody, if they want to learn, the best thing is trial and error. Like music, art, just
mm,
sit there, take a paper and start to draw, paint. Or music, get the hardware or DAW or whatever, and start to make some notes, make some noise, and from there something is going to come up.
Hmm.
So nowadays on YouTube you have so many tutorials like to learn softwares and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I think that's good enough doorway for everybody, like
of
to
course.
get that initial push, and then after that they're free.
Hmm. What do you think art is for, like in general, from your perspective? Why
Well,
art?
art, well, oh, art, if you art becomes a very very broad genre or very broad segment for categorization,
No, no,
because
not you as an
today,
artist, for like the people who are consuming the art, like the audience or the
right,
people on the dance floor, if
yeah,
it's a
even
painter,
yeah,
the
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Hmm.
in general art has become like it's kind of an abused word today, to be honest with you, because the thing is everybody calls everything art. Like anything that is out there is can be said, oh, that is art, oh, that is art, and that is art. But then the question is, what is really art? Is the feeling that it
Hmm.
generates when you look at it using your senses. It could
Hmm.
be like a blind person could be touching an object
Hmm.
with so much enthusiasm and so much feeling just to understand it,
Yeah.
and he's lost in there for some time, that he or she is trying to understand what this is, to feel it, and then to say that, wow, that move, that thing that moved somebody, that is art. So it could be, it's a stimulation, it's kind of I call it
Hmm.
an illusion that is given reality, you
Hmm.
know something that's an illusion which becomes a reality by using a medium that creates it.
Hmm.
So the medium is us, or the
Hmm.
medium is nature. Mother nature also has so much of art with all these mountains and forests and
Hmm.
deserts and all.
Hmm.
So you see, that's what it is that moves us, right?
Hmm.
And every time we see that, we say, wow, man, that is like just like a piece of art. So I think that's what art is all about. It's about something that moves somebody, and it pushes them to think about it, give it a thought,
Positive, negative,
get
both.
lost.
Like could be
Yeah,
positive, could be
positive,
negative.
negative, both, anything. It's
Hmm.
an important factor, no?
Hmm.
Anything that moves.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, there are people who say that if art doesn't move you in the opposite way, then it's not art. No, it's not like that. It can be good also, it can be bad also, it doesn't matter, but it evokes a certain something.
Hmm.
I think that is what is art.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you like cinema as well? Like, do you think?
Well,
Hmm.
mm, very picky, very picky about cinema. Again,
Hmm.
like if it is the standard stereotypical story based scenario where everything after a certain while becomes predictable,
Hmm.
then no, man, I don't enjoy it at all. But
No,
then
no, like
if it's
proper, like
something,
art cinema, like guys like
yeah,
Stanley
yeah, yeah,
Kubrick
yeah,
and all.
yeah.
Hmm.
I used to watch movies like art kind of movies and stuff,
Hmm.
but then off late it's been a long time. Like I
Hmm.
don't watch television much, actually, not much at all.
Hmm.
Sometimes just to give my mom company, I sit in the
Hmm.
living
For
room and just give
entertainment.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, cinema is good.
Otherwise, yeah. And then nowadays we have YouTube. No, if any question comes up, any research factor comes up in the mind, then just go straight to YouTube or Google and
Hmm.
check it out, what's going on, get the information, and then done with it.
Yeah, that's uh, that's what I was thinking. Ki now even PhD guys can't even act like they're smart and all. Like a guy in second standard can just go to Google and search the same thing that
Yeah.
he's talking about. So like, how much does an experience on stage in this field matter? Like, how should one start gaining experience as a music producer?
Oh yeah, this was a question that somebody asked me. Now she's gone on to become a very famous personality. Even she has played on television.
Hmm.
Um we did a collaboration also, man. Uh, and she's from Delhi.
Yeah.
So she asked the same question, saying that how do I get exposure? How do I start to play and stuff like that? Shubhangi Joshi is her name.
Hmm.
So
Electronic
uh,
music. She does electronic
no,
music.
no, not at all. Jazz. She's a
Acha.
proper singer, blues and
Ah,
jazz singer.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was
Ah,
my first collaboration with her, as with a vocalist who's
hmm,
trained vocalist. Like if you listen to her, her voice is like this really old school blues, moody jazz
hmm,
vocalist.
hmm,
The female with this moody vibes, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I was like, wow, man, like when you hear it, you can't tell, first of all, that it's an Indian who's singing it.
Hmm.
So when I heard it, I was like, who's this? Like, will she be ready to collaborate? And then we immediately did a collaboration.
Yeah.
And that's how we connected. And those days, she was like just getting into the music scene. She was working for DLF or something like that in Delhi. And
TLF. What's TLF?
these property developers,
Acha.
DLF 5
Acha,
folks,
DLF.
they
DLF.
have
I thought TLF.
uh,
Thief as in Trivandrum.
DLF.
DLF.
Yeah,
DLF.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
DLF. So then I was doing some graphics for them. That's how we connected. And
Okay.
then later on, she went on to tour the world. She went to America. She met some of her jazz musicians over there and all that. So her question was the same. She asked me, how do I do it? And I told her, see, initially, if you really believe in what you're doing and that you know that you're doing something different, then there has to be a little bit of an expense that comes out from our pocket, which is the way we can, that's the only way to start, is like go somewhere where you feel that your heart is like, she wanted to meet these people, so she went there. And I would
Hmm.
say the same for somebody who's, let's say, getting a gig somewhere now
Hmm.
in Europe or whatever, or first gig outside India, for example.
Hmm.
So it can be where the negotiations happen in such a way that you can tell the organizer, or the person can tell the organizer, saying that, you know what, how much is your fees? Okay, you can say, you pay for my airfare, you pay for my ticket, it's not a problem, and you pay for my hospitality and stuff like that. And then when it comes to my performance charges, I won't charge you much for the performance charges. It can be something, but that's for initial time, when you start to move and stuff like that. Once you
Hmm.
get to a certain stage, there has to be a change. Like, that's management. Like, just
Yeah.
like any other product and service out there, with
Hmm.
time the value is going to grow. And if the value is growing, then you have to be in a position to evaluate it after every gig.
Hmm.
So after that gig, you can come back and see, it was satisfactory. Okay, yeah, wow, I got great feedback. The organizer was happy, he wants to do another gig again. Wow.
Hmm.
So like that's a motivating factor. So then you can openly at that time discuss it with the organizer,
Hmm.
because he's happy about it, or
Yeah.
she is happy about it, and they have told directly to the act, saying that, I'm happy, I want to book you again.
Hmm.
So at that time, we are in a position again to say that, okay, look, this was my first gig, so I didn't know very honestly of how much to charge and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But then if it's going to be again, then my rates are going to be this much. So
Hmm.
that's how it starts to grow. That's how a person starts to develop, and the rates start to change, and that's how the growth factor starts to happen also.
Hmm. How long
I
does
mean, it's like
this take to
management.
transition from, say, like a 10,000 to a 50,000 in
Correct. Like
currency?
any, like a job. Like somebody
Hmm.
starts off with a certain salary, and then after every time the position changes, salary gets increased, and that's how the economy is, man. Like even for a musician or for an artist, if he or she's selling their music and art, then there has to be this money factor, unfortunately, and management of how they manage themselves. This has to come in the picture. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Of course.
And some are
Yeah.
good at it, some are not good at it, unfortunately. And if they're not good, then they get managers. There becomes a problem again. Can you trust the manager or not, and
Hmm.
is he or she good enough? But then that's how it is. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Hmm. I did this artist booking for like couple of years. I started this in 2016. So I used to book like local bands for restaurants and cafes. I used to do like some tours also for them. For like if they are in Delhi, I used to do their tour in Bangalore. Then Bangalore, then maybe like Punjab or whatever. So what I used to see is ki, my only job was to actually pitch for them. So this actually reminded me the same thing. Ki, I'm like, ki, dude, you know what I'm doing, right? Ki, you want a gig? Okay, if I am going to book you a gig, I'm going to charge like 10%, you know, from the fee. So like, if you don't want me to pay it, I'll tell you what I'm actually talking about, you know. So even if you're like, say you're a musician, or even if you're Mark Zuckerberg, like if you have Facebook, you actually have to go to like, say, investor and pitch them, ki, this is what I have, and this is what this Facebook can do for you. Or even if you're like a local musician, you should know how to sell yourself. eventually, or like sell yourself as in not in a cheap way. I'm saying, ki,
Correct, correct.
if you see like
See,
a really beautiful girl, you want to go up to her, you have to actually sell, the
correct,
idea of
correct,
you to her. So I'm just, so
correct.
those 2 years, I used to just tell them, dude, this is the script, not even the script, this is what I say. So just start doing it for yourself, because after a point in time, I had like 9 to 10 bands. So so one
Right.
used to get left behind, and he's saying, dude, you're doing this. And da, 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 da. So I'm like, I'll just drop this.
Yeah.
Dude. You start
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
And today we have platforms like Bandcamp and all that, where it gives independent musicians a platform to kind of start making releases and then
Hmm.
get noticed.
Yeah.
So like for me also it has happened the same way. Like I never actually have sent any application to any organizer in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I've never done. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've never done that. Never sent my application to any organizer.
Hmm.
It's through discovery, and that happens because of platforms like Bandcamp and stuff where you're independent and you make releases, and
Hmm.
then I mean, I was doing it only on Facebook, Instagram, and Google. Google used to have that pages thing happening for some time,
Yeah.
so I was doing it there. And then there were forums like Isra Trans forum was there, music
Hmm.
forum.
Hmm. I remember. I
So
remember. Yes.
yeah,
Hmm.
so I used to just go and put a link there, like
Hmm.
released out now, you can get it out here like that.
Hmm.
And that's the only administration work that I was doing, and then leaving it there for people to decide. And touch wood, I mean, it happened that organizers who were listening to it, who could connect with it, connected with it. And then they contacted me saying, would you be interested for a booking and this and that? And what's your rates and all that? And that's how it used to move ahead. Some
Hmm.
people who could take it ahead took it ahead, and those who could not take it ahead didn't happen. It's like that.
Yeah.
But initially I struggled, to be honest with you. I struggled. I couldn't put a value on my work at all. So
Hmm.
I did a lot of gigs where I didn't get paid for.
Hmm.
And then eventually I understood it the hard way, saying that, man, I'm touring the world, like I'm coming back home and my bank account is not growing. Like, what's
And
happening,
it's like
like,
spooky, dude. As an artist, if you're traveling and you can't trust the guy who has booked you, it's you feel like it's very shady. You're in a or you are
oh
in a
yeah, yeah,
different. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
Mm,
mean, I have been cheated that way also. My so-called manager has also, like, I don't want to name the
mm,
person, but then somebody said that, let me manage you and all of that, and that happened. And then gigs also happened 3 years running, hardly
mm,
made anything out of it.
mm,
And every time that there was time to pay up, it was like some story. And I'm like,
mm,
you know what? Like, I don't need this. Like, no, I might as well manage myself
mm.
and learn it the hard way than
Yeah.
to do it this way and then regret it. No, better
Yeah.
to have no regrets if you manage it. I mean, if I manage it on my own, so I did it that way,
So this
and
happened to
then no
me once.
complaint.
Like I went to this festival in like Parvati Valley and all. I don't know why I used to actually go to these parties. So yeah, I got booked for a gig there to like play some
Right.
like, whatever they asked me to play psytrance only. So what happened was it was a very loosely managed part like gig. Like they did not know like the ABCD of it. So what happened was it was a New Year gig and the electricity went away. Are you there? Are you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
So
It
yeah,
got off for some time, but it came back again.
yeah. So what happened was electricity went away, and it was around almost midnight. The New Year was about to happen. So this like really like a bodybuilder guy came up to the stage and he asked me, "When is the electricity going to come?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm just like playing over here. I don't know when the electricity is going to come. So you can go and ask the management there." And there was nobody from the management. I tell you, dude, that was so hectic, and it was about to be midnight. It was about to be New Year. What happened was people got drunk and they got crazy, and they came running towards the stage. One guy actually took the mixer off and he said, when the electricity is going to come, you just take it from me. I'm like, dude, what is happening? So I just switched off my laptop, just kept it in the bag, and I just went right next to the speaker and I was talking to my friend. Like
Wow.
I'm like, dude, I don't care about it. Like if they're going to take the mixer, it's mismanagement. It's not my problem. I did not do this. I'm not the manager here. what happened was people went crazy and they start, smashing the stuff around. They started breaking the speakers and everything. They're saying, "Ki, dude, you have spoiled our New Year's," which they were right on their part. I'm like, dude, I'm totally with you. This should not have happened. But when they started breaking the speakers and all, dude, and I left my, bag there. They took my laptop, everything. And later, like after a couple of like hours, I realized they took my bag away, and then my laptop is gone. Everything is gone. So
My God.
yeah, so like morning like this happened, Lathi charge, police and all came, dude. Lathi charge and everything happened. So like after this, I went like somewhere and I waited over there. I realized, dude, my money, my this thing, laptop, everything is gone. So I got to like go to the manager and tell him about this. So he told me, dude, I'll sort your money out. That's no issue. Like I'll sort you what you lost some 70, 80 grams, right? I'll give it to you. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait. So morning happened. I'm like, dude, just give me my money. I'm just gonna like head back to Delhi now. So he's telling me, dude, you go to Delhi, I'll give it to you there. Then I sensed this thing, dude, something shady is happening now. Like he's telling me to go to Delhi. How am I going to keep a track of this? And then what that's what happened. I eventually had to go to Delhi because I could not, you know, do
But did you
anything.
get the money? Did you
No,
get
I
the
did
money
not.
or anything?
I did not get the money. So later,
Oh my
after
God.
that, I realized, dude, I am not going to let anything of this sort happen to at least my musician friend that are, around. He like I know like I'm going to like do it for myself and for other people. I have to have like a contract and they cannot go against the contract. I hired a lawyer also later. You are going to take care of everything, like from like little bits, like the manager is not going to get more than 20%. Booking agent is not going to get more than 10%. Everything. Like I don't trust these fucking Indian managers and all. It's not like
Hmm.
outside. So yeah, so that's how I got into this booking and everything. I have to like sort everything out for the artist so that
Definitely.
it has to come from an experience also, dude. So when I look at
Definitely.
these
Definitely.
new guys coming in the scene, they're telling me, dude, my manager is asking for 50%. I'm like, dude, 50%? Who gives their 50% to the manager?
50%. Wow.
I'm like, dude,
Wow.
don't give
I mean, it's
50%.
it's not like, yeah, definitely. And I think local gigs is not very high paying gigs also, right?
Yeah, I'm like if you're a singer songwriter, if you get like 4 or 5 gigs in a week. So yeah, average is what 10-15K. So if you're gonna give your manager 50% of that,
50, then yeah, that's it. Like, my God.
Hmm. So I'm like, dude, this is not the way to go about it. Even if he's producing your videos, even if he's promoting you or doing whatever, you can't give him more than 20%. So these little bits of there's no clarity in the scene. No, Baba, that's what I'm saying. People don't know how to go about it. We were never taught about this
Yeah,
in school. It has always been hit and trial. So what I wanted was it should not be hit and trial every time. Like people have
correct.
become successful, right, in the music scene. So it should not be like hit and trial. Now people know how to go about it, and it should be for like the local guy also. And even if you're AR Rahman, like it should be the same structure that you follow.
Yeah, correct.
If
Correct.
you're
Correct.
good at it, you should be paid money for it. If you're not good at it, then just do something else. Just don't do music for a
Correct.
living. Yeah, if people are not
Correct.
able
And
to.
that's exactly why I keep telling these people who come and say, like, I want to quit my studies and do music. I always say, no, don't do that. Like, go get your education, get
Yeah.
that piece of paper in your hand, and then you do whatever you want to do. Because if tomorrow, if this doesn't work out, at least
Mm,
they have something to back on, like to get back out there and make some money out of it and live. Otherwise, it's a big problem. I
mm,
mean, and today with this information highway music scene also is like this mp3 quality being available everywhere, and then who's going to sit and educate majority of the people that, come on man, you're listening to a very bad quality audio. Do you even realize that, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
most people don't know that. For them,
Mm.
all it matters is they want music for free.
Yeah, even for the events and all, people don't want to pay, dude. Like they are always asking their friends for the free entries and all. I'm like, dude, your friend has hosted a gig. He has put in so much money. Just give him 1,000, 1,500 bucks, dude. Just help your friend out there.
And yeah, see, that's the whole point, no, like when it comes to appreciating, the same people will be like, oh wow, you're a musician, you're an artist. Oh, you must be doing a lot of sacrifice, ye wo dedication, ye wo ha theek hai, that's all fine. But then
Mm.
when it comes to actually showing the appreciation when something is out there, they
Uh,
expect it like, can I get a copy of that? Can I get that CD? Can I get that album? Like, excuse me, like you just said so many good things, and then now you're like asking for a free copy. Like, what the hell?
so I just tell them like say if it's an accountant, dude, are you gonna do my accounts for free or what?
It's not like saying that artists and musicians should be commercial minded. It's not that. It's about the principle of the person who appreciates art and music. I think naturally they would want from their own heart to
Hmm.
give something to help the person, not just to help but to appreciate the sacrifice and appreciate the efforts and everything that the musician or artist is putting into the
Hmm.
work.
Hmm. Dude, what I feel is that before it was all anarchist rule. No, back then artists used to be like taken care of. Like king used to take care of the
Right.
artist. Everything was sorted by them. Now, if it's like a capitalist society, you have to fucking get out there and sell yourself. No, because everyone is.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the whole
Yeah.
thing. No, I mean that is where the whole problem comes, is money and art, money and music. Like
Hmm.
that balance and how much where it is not easy. For sure, it's not easy. Like to put
Hmm.
a value on it. I
Yeah.
mean, looking at it in that perspective, though, yeah, man, I would say you can't put a value on the effort, the
Of
time, the
course. Of
dedication,
course.
and the
Yeah.
sacrifice that a musician and an artist is putting into his life
Hmm.
just to
Hmm.
create that small piece of work.
Yeah.
It is you can't put a value on that.
Hmm.
So
What do you think? Like that goes for anything for that matter. No, if like Thomas Edison
correct.
discovered a bulb, you can't put like a 10 buck rupees value
Absolutely,
to. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. It's their way of life, no?
Yeah.
For anybody, if something is a way of their life, you can't put a value on that because that's just their way of life, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, like we have spiritual leaders today who are pretty open about it, who are saying like, I'm a spiritual leader and I know I'm making money of being a spiritual leader. At
Hmm.
least I'm upfront and honest about it, that I'm a spiritual leader and I'm
So was Hitler,
openly
no?
saying that. So that's the whole thing. You see that also is happening nowadays. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I've heard from a spiritual guru. I know which guru you're
yeah,
talking.
what to do? I mean, that's how the world is moving nowadays, no? So
Hmm. But for a spiritual
you
guru, to the same guy, what I thought was that this religion is like you're telling the truth to people, right? You're saying something true. How can you charge somebody for telling the truth? You're telling the truth of
correct.
life. If you're asking for money to tell the truth, then you're doing some business, dude. That's not like he was trying to like be cool about it. Oh, I'm a spiritual leader and I'm charging money for it. And yeah, it's cool. It's not cool, Baba. Then that religion, if you're teaching religion, then that becomes a sect and it becomes a cult, is what you're making it as.
Yeah, I mean, even if it is not religion based, even if the person is trying to tell us the values of life,
Hmm.
even if the person is trying to give an opinion about how life is, I would still see that as his or her personal opinion about
Hmm.
life and in
Yeah.
general,
Hmm.
because I believe that everything out there is based on a certain conditioning.
Yeah.
So everybody is conditioned, whether we like it or not. Since we are born, the conditioning starts
Hmm.
from that first smile that we can see, or from the first touch that we have, or from the touch that we do. The
Hmm.
conditioning starts from that point in time. So
Yeah.
everybody is individually conditioned in their own way. Now, if somebody makes a choice to share that conditioning with somebody, I call that person a very egoistic person because that person is literally trying to force everybody else to be conditioned the way he or she has been conditioned,
Hmm.
instead of letting everybody to get conditioned their way. Anyway,
Hmm.
we're getting conditioned.
Hmm.
Why do we need to get conditioned in a certain way by somebody? We are
Hmm.
anyway getting conditioned. But at
Hmm.
least if you get conditioned your own way, tomorrow we are in a position to have no regrets and say, you know what, I am a self-made man. Like, I
Hmm.
made mistakes, but I learned from it. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. And everybody is leading their life in a certain way.
But
They're
Swaroop,
learning
this
all the
is
time.
the thing that you're saying that can work in an ideal environment. But what if,
That is
you
there.
know, What if that guy, like the conditioning turns out to be that the guy becomes a pedophile, let's say, and then
Yeah,
that
that is a
that
yeah.
it goes like it, yeah, it can work in like ideal environment when where there's like no greed and that sort of stuff. But then when this like capitalist and this sort of approach comes towards society, you can't leave everyone. Like say, I'll give you an example. We are living in a democratic country, right? Everyone has the equal right to do everything, say everything, like we have freedom of speech. But still, when you have like all of the power, right, then the regular janta looks out for a leader, they need someone to lead them, like be it in form of
Yeah,
Narendra Modi
yeah,
or be it in form of a religious leader, Bhagwan Ram or Abrahamic religion, Jesus Christ, Jobi, whatever. Eventually people need a leader, they need someone to guide them through.
correct. Majority needed.
so
Correct,
so this,
correct.
yeah, so I'm like, dude, this has been there
Yeah,
since
yeah.
thousands of years. That.
Majority people need it because not everybody would be aware to that extent. Then, as you said, it would be an ideal world scenario where everybody would be aware and conscious and lead life in a very peaceful way. But then that doesn't happen because majority in India needs somebody to,
Oh.
show them a
Hmm.
certain direction and put them on track or something like that also.
Hmm.
I think this lockdown situation that has happened now also, for example, it kind of changes a lot of things in the way that everything has been moving forward,
Hmm.
where people are becoming more and more individualistic, as in the way that they think and the way that they live,
Hmm.
starting from personal hygiene to, staying with bare necessities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's some kind of a change from it, but I don't know how long it's going to sustain. Like let's see how that goes. I don't know.
This has been ingrained in the subconscious, dude. Like I really love when there's a chaos around, I love that. Like I feel at least people. Are you there?
And like in the
Oh, are you there? Hello? Hello? Sorry, are you there?
yeah.
Oh yeah, the screen froze. I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. It got off for some time.
So at least people are now living like, yeah, life is not unlimited. You are here for a limited period of time, like, all of us are. So just do what you can in this limited time. You're not here forever. So I kind of like this that it has been ingrained in people's subconscious. Ki, हाँ, like, do your shit. Don't be like, lazy bums and that sort of stuff. It's
This
lagging
connection
here
has
too.
gone a little bit off. I think 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows red from that side. Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but your screen is a little
Hello.
laggy. Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you. Yeah, it's fine now. It's fine now.
Now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Swaroop, one thing that I wanted to ask you, like, what are some roadblocks to look out for when a person is starting out as a musician, as a music producer?
Okay. Roadblocks would be, I think, main thing is expectation. Like,
Hmm.
if somebody is kind of doing it based on a certain factor of expectation or reaction, then that can become a big disappointment and a demotivating factor eventually, because
Hmm.
they're human, no? So
Yeah.
it's natural that if somebody, if I make something and put it out there,
Hmm.
saying that, what, I love my piece of work, who's study and give it that much of a value to it or importance to it or feel it, is not going to happen, because it's never going to be that way. So it's better, I at least for my point of view, I would never expect anything out of what I share out there. Like I would just do it because I feel it's ready to share, and
Yeah.
leave it, and then let's see what happens to it. But the minute if I put an expectation on it, and then if it doesn't meet that expectation, I could be disheartened.
Yeah.
and then that becomes a demoral or
Yeah.
demotivating me, that I would like, you know what, now I have to get a gig, now I have to get writer's block mode on starting and all that. It's probably because they are in that mode of expecting and not getting.
Hmm.
Whereas if they were just doing it for their sake of, let's say, doing and sharing as a means of sharing their growth or sharing their learning as they move forward, then I don't think they would complain or have regrets of sharing what they do.
Yeah.
So the roadblock factor probably comes only when you start to have that expectation. So
Hmm.
if there is no expectation, there is no roadblock. It's just keeps going.
Yeah, I've seen this. This creates sort of misery inside you. I've seen this in stand-up comedians because whenever they like write a joke, they expect a laugh, like, every 9 seconds, every 11 seconds, they expect a laugh. And when that doesn't happen, like initially when you're just starting out, they have this thing called laugh per minute, like in how many times did people laugh in a minute? Like we have a BPM, they have laugh per minute. So
Oh, right.
yeah,
Wow.
so when that doesn't happen, like initially, like couple of years when you're doing stand-up comedy and people are not laughing, these guys get so miserable. I can't tell you, dude. Like the same expectation thing. Dude, the guy who came before me, everyone was like laughing. He was killing it on stage. Now, like they're just looking at me, no reaction and everything. Like, dude, it won't happen. It'll take time, Baba. So yeah, man, like especially I feel so sad for stand-up comics because that is an art that you have to be on stage and
Oh
grow
yeah,
over there on
yeah.
stage only. Like we musicians, we can just practice.
And make people laugh,
Yeah,
like that is, if they don't laugh, it's like the guy is like literally insulted, I guess. Probably
yeah,
nobody laughs at the
yeah.
joke. It's like an insult for that guy.
Yeah. It happens in a normal conversation when your joke bombs and everyone looks at you. Dude. Why did you have to do that
Yeah,
joke?
like, oh, okay, like that's my cue to just shut up and go now.
So I imagine when it's happening to a guy on stage every day. I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
you
totally.
only decided to put yourself through this. Now you have to, like,
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, expectation is something you're saying that creates a little bit of misery. So you should just
Yeah,
continuously
definitely.
do your thing and not expect, like, big or
Yeah.
small, whatever. Like you should not expect.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, see, expectation as in, okay, there's always that thing that I hope I get a gig. If some organizer is going to see my work and then book me or something, that's a different thing I'm talking about. That's a different thing. That's discovery of talent or discovery of an artist's work.
Hmm.
But in terms of the people, regular listeners and appreciators, it's left to them. Like, you're
Hmm.
not going to get everybody liking it, and you're not going to get everybody disliking it. There's
Hmm.
always going to be a segment that will say wow, and there'll be a segment which will say okay, and there'll be a segment who would be like critics saying no, not good, whatever. So best not to expect, like, it just do it, just leave it out there, and then let it be, and then
Hmm.
it's time to move on to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next, and that's how I do it anyway. But
That's
yeah,
one of the
I
best
don't know.
thing I have heard since a long time.
Like, I don't see, the thing is, you can't recommend this to everybody again, no, because everybody's got a different mindset, and
Hmm.
everybody's doing it for a different reason. Some
Yeah,
of them are probably solely doing it for the money. So
yeah.
if somebody is doing it solely for the money, then they have to have that expectation that
Of
everything they do
course.
should
Like if
be.
you're starting it
Yeah,
out as a business, you have put in some money, then you need some profits out of it also. That is
correct,
different. But as a musician,
correct, correct.
hmm. Acha, can we go a little intense or what?
Sure.
Yeah, so share some like rock bottom experiences that you had and how did you like overcome it?
Okay. One of the most, well, it's an experience, like a proper experience that I've had, where Since childhood, I was like kind of a seeker of answers to many questions which were in my head. I used to always go and speak to people who were experienced, like even priests and sadhus, babas,
Mm.
and Sufis, these mullahs and people like that. So nobody could answer these questions. Like everybody used to come down to the last point and say, but you can't answer these questions. Like you just have to just live. Don't go so much in detail into it, because there was no answer to it. But
Mm.
then it got answered for me personally when I went, like we were in the desert and I was walking and walking just on the dunes and looking at the full moon and having a conversation with the full moon with these 100 questions which are going on in my head. And then something happened. Like I had a very intense experience where I could feel like my this point in my head like completely connected with this moon, as if somebody's tied some kind of a knot between me and this moon.
Mm.
And all my questions, tuck 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 tuck, answers are coming in, like, oh my god. Like
Mm.
I could not believe what was going on. They were just like I don't know how to explain it, man. I was like kind of split, like split for how long I don't know, but it was going on, and I could see myself not as this body. Like I could see it's like a like a luminous kind of a thing,
Mm.
like not
Mm.
not with body, but with, like, it was not with form, it was something else. And
Yeah.
then I channeled this all back to the question because I needed answers, and I went back to this point, and I'm asking the questions. Finally, the last point, when like I was so thrilled and happy with all what I got, what I needed to know. The last point was like, why do I need to go back to that? Like
Mm.
where I've been spending all this time of my life. Why
Mm.
do I need to go back to that? Like, come on, like why do I need to go back to that? And the
Mhm.
answer was like, it just got a complete disconnect. Like I had a disconnect, and the answer that it left me with was, I wouldn't be in this position to come to the point of seeking and finding that answer and the questions that I even came up with if it wasn't for this body and if it wasn't for this mind.
Yeah.
So I have to go back to give the credits to the two people who have given me this body and given me this mind, which means I need to go back for my parents and to make peace with my parents. That is the ultimate peace, even for myself. So that was the answer, is that if we can make peace with our creators, which is our direct creators, which is our mom and dad as in direct creators, that is already one step closer to finding internal individual peace. If one can make peace with their parents, then they have made peace with themselves. This is the ultimate thing that was for me anyway. Like it's not necessarily for everyone, but that was a very moving experience for me. And then after that, I went back and I quit everything and just started doing my music and art and all that. Even moved in and stayed with my parents. I was staying on my own before that, but I
Mm.
quit everything and then moved back with them. So that was like a whole life changing experience for me that happened quite some time back.
Mm.
So yeah.
That's that. Oh, dude, I went to some other zone and all that. Shit. I'm sorry. So yeah, this rock bottom, like I usually ask guests on my podcast about this question. This is some next level shit that you just told me, dude. I usually get like, guys like I used to do a lot of drugs and then I had to quit it and I was walking around naked on the streets and also that's how they describe their rock bottom as. I'm like, dude, so, yeah. Anyway, yeah, thank you for telling me that, dude.
No problem, bro. I mean, this story. Many people ask me when I travel, like my gigs and stuff. They ask me this kind of question where they ask, "What was the thing that made you decide to do this?" And this is what actually changed my life. Like after that, like that's one point in my life. After that, I didn't have any fear of death. That was one thing. Like in a very positive way.
Mm.
I don't fear death, and I would embrace it even if it comes to me now. It's like that. So it's just that ultimate liberation or moment that happened for me personally. And then after that, I went back and I And
Yeah.
I see life is beautiful, man. Like it's amazing. Like it's so good. Everything is great. Everything is nice. There's
Mm.
no bad. There's no. I don't see anything as a negative,
Yeah.
unless somebody comes and throws it in my face. Like somebody is literally cursing or saying bad words in my face. I can't say that. Oh man, you're such a nice person. Obviously not. Like come on.
Of course, you can't be a vegetable, no, dude. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, but generally speaking, I just see the good side about many things in life. Even though
Mm.
I have seen the dark side and I have understood it, but that was the important part for me at that point to understand it.
It's very important to embrace the negative and the dark side as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
So yeah, one last thing, bro. Ki, what's that one thing that you, if you think that you had known it initially in life, like back in school, things would have been much easier for you. Is there anything of that sort for you? Like,
Not really. I mean, I see everything as it's happened for a reason, and that it's
mhm.
flowing in a certain way also as a for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do realize that many things today that I have answers to were some questions from my childhood and past, which got
Mm.
answered as time went by. So, but it's not like I would change anything. Everything has happened just the way it is and just the way it's been going, and no regrets, and everything is happening for a reason.
Mm.
Whether good, whether bad, whatever happened, everything has happened for a reason. And there is always a positive outcome, is what I take from it
Mm.
personally.
Usually,
So,
like when I ask this thing, ki, usually I get is ki, just a sexuality is what I get really often. Ki, if I had known that I am of this sexuality, because there's this friend of mine who used to like date girls till the age of 24, and he really after that he realized that he's homosexual. So he told me to do it. If I had known this back in school, life would have been so much easier, bro. Like, I understand
no, man.
that.
Well, when it goes to that, I'm like, I'm very, very upfront and honest about like that part where
Mm,
I don't have time to commit to a girl as such, because I don't want to break her heart, man. Like for me,
yeah,
yeah, of course. I mean, if she's happy to be with me for the time that I give her and she gives
yeah,
me, which is very momentous kind of time, and I give all my energy at that moment. But then after that, I don't want to be like stuck with a commitment, or I don't
yeah,
want to be stuck with that kind of a thing, because I know I won't be able to give it, because my music and art is always going to be
yeah,
overpowering that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when the music and art will call, then I have to be ready to go for that, and
Okay.
even tell her, no, please, like I can't try, not right now, like
Hmm.
and that's not right. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
eventually that becomes a problem.
Hmm.
So I would say in that perspective, like I just don't deliberately go out there and be socially active, because there's too much drama, and I prefer not to get into that whole drama mode, because it takes up too much time and too much energy unnecessarily. So it's better for me to be in my cave and do my art and my music than to be out there and being active in that perspective. You know what I mean?
I know. But I love picking up, dude. Like I love this art of pickup, just going up to say, hey, you look really cute.
Well, yeah, I've been there, done that, bro. Like I was in Scotland, like going out clubbing
uh,
nights and stuff like that.
yeah,
Like I've been there and done that. Like college
yeah.
life was full of it. So yeah,
Just going
enjoyed
up to
it, enjoyed
random
it.
chicks. Hey, I think
Yeah,
you're
for sure, man, for sure, for sure. But I mean, it's not. The thing was, I never went up to anybody. I was like
yeah,
dancing. I was a good dancer. Okay, dancing, and things used to happen on its own. Like that's it. Like
yeah,
going with the flow, and
yeah,
used to happen.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man. That's what I wanted to like talk to you about. That's so yeah. Thank you for this, bro. Thank you for coming for this podcast, man.